Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to mypillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. mypillow.com, promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Israeli officials say their recent strike on Hezbollah was more devastating than the 2024 pager attack. And we remember that one very well, don't we? Also, there are reports that Iran is shifting 20 million barrels of oil through a dark offshore oil network, bypassing the U.S. port blockade. We have an update on the Middle East in today's show for you. Could President Trump be appointing more justices to the U.S. Supreme Court? That was one of the questions Maria Bartiromo asked in a sit-down with the president yesterday. This could be big. You want to hear about this. As the South Carolina General Assembly is trying to get through the final weeks of this year's session, we're seeing the annual rush to get things done. Some members of the South Carolina Senate are being accused of using a proposed abortion ban as a, quote, bargaining chip on regulations for THC products. We have that story in today's show, too. And an illegal immigrant, allegedly so intoxicated he could not stand up, is accused of driving off a Spartanburg, South Carolina roadway and killing 2 children riding bikes on a sidewalk. This story is making national headlines. There's a lot to cover. Let's get started.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, you know, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
According to reports, Israel launched one of its most aggressive and coordinated strikes yet against Hezbollah targets across Lebanon. We're talking about roughly 50 aircraft hitting more than 100 targets almost simultaneously. And here's what makes this different. These weren't just weapons depots or rocket launchers. These were command centers, intelligence hubs, the nerve center of Hezbollah's operations, we're told. In other words, this wasn't just about weakening Hezbollah. This was about disrupting the entire chain of command. Now, Israeli officials are saying that within a minute, they eliminated around 250 Hezbollah operatives across multiple locations. That's not just a strike. That is a coordinated, intelligence-driven operation on a very massive scale. And it tells us something important. Israel still has deep, real-time intelligence capabilities inside of Hezbollah. And I'm hoping, well, actually, I don't care that whether Hezbollah recognizes that or not, but I'm sure they are by now. Now, let's take a step back. Let's look at the bigger picture here. Hezbollah entered the fight after U.S. and Israeli strikes on Iran and after the reported killing of Iran's supreme leader, the Ayatollah. Since then, Hezbollah has been launching rockets and drones into northern Israel. Now, remember, I've told you before, I have been to a couple of outposts there where you literally are standing in Israel and there's nothing but a barbed wire fence separating you from that area. Israel has been responding with increasing force in that area. But this latest move is kind of different. It signals escalation, not just intensity, but in Israel's strategy here. Now, here's where things are a little complicated and where opinions start to split. On one side, Israeli officials argued this was necessary. They say Hezbollah has embedded itself inside civilian areas, and they have. I mean, you can look out, and when I was there, members of the Israeli Defense Forces who were with us would point out houses, and again, it's like looking out over a valley, and they would show us houses and tell us, And you'd see kids out playing in the yard. You'd hear noise. You'd hear music playing. But they would tell us that in the basement of the house, there were rockets. They operate a lot of their militia out of neighborhoods in hopes that Israel would not attack them. That's how they do it. They use neighborhoods as a shield. They use apartment buildings as a shield. Everyday infrastructure as cover of their terrorism. And they claim civilians are just part of the process. I guess they're just casualties of war. And Hezbollah doesn't seem to mind. Now, on the other side, you have strong condemnation from international voices who believe that Israel should not be attacking these areas regardless of what these homes are actually doing. Lebanon's president called the destruction horrific. The United Nations human rights chief said the level of devastation, especially happening so quickly, defies belief. So you've got two realities being presented at the same time. One says this was a targeted, strategic military operation. The other says the human cost is simply too high, and that the tension is in modern warfare, especially in densely populated regions and neighborhoods. Now, let's talk about what this actually means going forward, because this is where you have to really look at this very seriously. Experts are saying the real question isn't just how many fighters were taken out. It's whether this changes Hezbollah's ability to operate. Did Israel achieve its objective of making sure Hezbollah cannot continue to strike the northern part of Israel? Does it slow them down? Does it throw their command structure into chaos? Or do they just simply regroup and continue as before? And they've done that over and over. It's kind of like with Iran. You know, we've been playing with Iran for years and years now. And President Trump has said, once and for all, we're going to make sure Iran cannot rebuild in our lifetimes. I mean, history kind of gives us a clue here. This strike has already been compared to a previous Israeli operation, the so-called beeper attack back in 2024. You remember that? That was when communications devices used by Hezbollah operatives exploded almost simultaneously, disrupting their entire network. That operation didn't just cause damage, it created a lot of confusion and a lot of fear. And that's what this latest strike appears designed to do. Not just eliminate targets, but create chaos, create disarray, break coordination, and tilt the battlefield in Israel's favor. But here's the part that should catch everyone's attention. Even after all of this, Hezbollah is still considered a major threat. We're talking about a group that before this conflict had an estimated 150 to 200,000 rockets and missiles. One would assume that Iran has helped them build that arsenal. Iran has funded that arsenal as one of their proxies. And it's why it is so dangerous and why it has to be taken care of, because as long as Hezbollah is there, Israel still is at risk. Hezbollah is in their backyard. Hezbollah could wipe out northern Israel if they go unchecked. And that's this threat that Hezbollah imposes on northern Israel is not something that just disappears overnight. There's another twist to the story, too. At the same time all this was happening, there were actually diplomatic talks underway as part of the bigger peace in the Middle East, as part of the bigger plan with Iran and this ceasefire. For the first time in decades, Israel and Lebanon had open, direct discussions right here in the United States, we're told. And with hours of that diplomatic opening, missiles were flying again, strikes were happening again. So you've got diplomacy and destruction happening almost simultaneously, and that's just how this is how they deal with one another. You and I can't comprehend this type of hatred of one another. I mean, they have been fighting each other for hundreds, thousands of years. So no, it's not going to just go away overnight. But it does raise the bigger question. Where does it go from here? Does the pressure Hezbollah, does this pressure Hezbollah into stepping back? Does Hezbollah finally say, well, maybe just maybe we need to find a way to live together? Or does it provoke retaliation? Does it just make Hezbollah more determined to strike back? They fight nasty. Does it bring Iran further into the conflict? Is Iran going to try to defend their friends in known as Hezbollah? I mean, Iran is pretty much crippled on their own, but still, they still have missiles stored away somewhere. They still have, they're not totally defeated. And as we've talked about many times, when you have people like the people in Iran, like the people that make up Hezbollah, they don't value life like you and I value life. They will die for the cause and not think anything of it. Again, they've been fighting this for generations. So that's where I want to bring you into the conversation here, because these are the moments where public opinion matters. Do you see this as justified military action on the part of Israel, taking out threats before they strike? Or do you buy into the narrative that Israel is just further escalating war in that region? If you're Israel, do you back off? Do you let diplomacy play a role here? Do you see this as an escalation that risks pulling the region into something even bigger, maybe totally eliminates any potential of peace with Iran? Because one thing is clear, it doesn't appear to be winding down. This is evolving, and the decision being made right now on all sides are going to shape what happens next, not just in the Middle East, but in that, but around the world to a degree. Love to get your comments. Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Some interesting news out of Washington yesterday. President Trump said that he is, quote, prepared to appoint up to 3 more Supreme Court justices if vacancies arise, signaling that he is ready to further reshape the high court, as there's a lot of speculation right now around a potential retirement of Justice Samuel Alito. Now, this all took place in part of a bigger discussion. Trump told this to Fox Business's Maria Bartiromo. He had a sit down with Miss Bartiromo yesterday, and they covered a lot of topics. But what got my attention was when they started talking about Justice Alito. Mr. Alito was appointed by former President George W. Bush, and he could retire. And the question was, do you have a short list of nominees in mind? He did not mention any names, but here's the conversation.
Are you expecting to name another Supreme Court justice? The speculation is that Justice Alito will step down this summer.
Well, in many ways, I have to tell you, while it's an honor, I think he is one of the great justices of all time. So, you know, it'd be nice to say, now I have somebody for 40 years. Justice Alito is an unbelievable justice and a brilliant justice. And he gets the country. He does what's right for the country. It's the law, and he goes by it as much as anybody. But he gets to the point that's good for our country. So, you know, when you tell me that, one way you should be, I'm thrilled. But he's so good.
But, I mean, if there is a vacancy, do you have a short list of people that you would name?
Yeah,
you do?
I do.
Do you expect that we will see change by year end?
You mean on the Supreme Court?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know. I think Justice Alito is in very good physical health, because you mentioned his name.
Well, what about Clarence Thomas? I'm just thinking about the oldest Republicans. Look,
there's a theory. You reach a certain age and you give up your seat to if you have the precedent. Well, look what happens to Justice Ginsburg. She was not exactly a young woman. The election was taken. They had a Democrat who could have appointed a liberal justice, and the liberals do stick together. That's one thing about those justices. They stick together like glue, not like the Republicans. But she decided that she was going to live forever, and about 2 minutes after the election, she went out, and I got to appoint somebody. So, you make the case that at a certain time, you give it up so that you can have a justice. You know, the average is like 40 years. It's a long time. So that your ideology, your policies, your everything would be of the kind that we like. But it's probably not easy to give up for people, you know. They reach a certain age. Ginsburg could not do it. And she really hurt herself within the Democrat Party. People are very angry at her because I got to appoint people instead of Biden.
So you don't know if you're going to be naming, putting another nomination forward. Okay, Mr. President, you've got a big meeting.
It's possible. You know, in theory, it's 2 or 3, they tell me. If you just read statistics, it could be 2, could be 3, could be 1. I don't know. I'm prepared to do it, but when you mention Alito, he is a great justice.
Now, these talks are kind of exciting, aren't they? I mean, they kind of sharpen the stakes around a potential vacancy, as President Trump signaled he's ready to seize the opportunity to further shape the conservative majority, which by the way, could affect generations. With retirement speculation around Alito intensifying, Republicans are looking at this window before the 2026 midterms when we know for sure that we have a majority and could get this through. Rumors about Alito, he's 76 years old, and his potential retirement have grown because of his age. His 2-decade tenure on the bench and speculation that he may want to make sure a conservative successor is confirmed by the current Republican-led Senate, especially before the upcoming midterm elections in which Republicans are at risk of losing or maybe seeing a diminished majority in the Senate that could prevent a conservative nomination or nominee being confirmed. And as the president mentioned, you know, I wouldn't put this past Alito because Alito is dedicated to the cause. Alito is not a selfish individual. He recognizes that his days are numbered and that he can further shape the future of our country and conservative values by making sure that a true conservative replaces him on the court. And the only way you can do that is when you know for sure that the U.S. Senate can confirm the president's nominee. These rumors were further fueled when it was revealed recently that Mr. Alito was treated for dehydration after becoming ill at a Federalist Society dinner. This was just last month. A Supreme Court spokesperson clarified at the time that the justice was thoroughly checked and had returned to the bench the following Monday. But it does, give you pause. And look, I don't know that much about Mr. Alito's personal life, but at 76 years old, if you want to ensure a strong conservative future, maybe you step aside and you just spend more time with your family. You do things that you enjoy. Justice Clarence Thomas, who was appointed by George H.W. Bush, has drawn less retirement speculation, even though he's 1 year older. He's 77. Thomas has been a conservative fixture on the court for more than three decades. He holds a record as the second longest serving justice in history. So why are we not talking about his retirement as well? President Trump noted that he viewed as an upside to replacing Alito, who sides with him on nearly every high-profile court case, but he said it would come at a cost. Now, many prominent conservative judges, from appellate court judge James Ho to Florida-based federal judge Eileen Cannon, have been floated as potential options in legal circles. And you got to know that this is being talked about a lot. President Trump has not publicly revealed any of his preferences. Ms. Bartiromo tried to get him to come forward with a name, and as you saw, he very coyly said, well, not quite sure yet. Senate Chairman Chuck Grassley told reporters this week he would recommend Senator Ted Cruz or Senator Mike Lee as top candidates if Alito were to retire. Now, can you imagine Ted Cruz on the U.S. Supreme Court? I kind of like the idea. What about you? Cruz, in a statement provided to Fox News about his name being in the mix, said it would be a high honor. Lee's office reportedly did not respond to a request for comment. It's going to get interesting, folks, and it could be happening sooner than later. You don't have a weight problem. You have a body that's in survival mode, and no medication, crash diet, or app is going to fix that. Joey Hudson here. Ozempic, Wegovy. These GLP-1 drugs are exploding in popularity, and for some, they're a useful tool, but they don't address why your body started storing fat in the first place. At PhD Weight Loss, they treat the unwanted weight as a symptom, a signal that your metabolism, hormones, and stress response need some attention. When they correct those, the weight comes off naturally, and more importantly, it stays off. Because they're not just helping you lose weight, they're helping you increase health span and extend longevity. Right now, call PhD Weight Loss and mention Joey Hudson. You'll get 2 weeks free in the program, and they'll pay for your food. That's a $1,500 value, completely free. Call 864-644-1900. Do it right now. Mention Joey Hudson. Again, that's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. No more guessing, no more short-term fixes, just a smarter way forward. A South Carolina story is making national headlines, and we're going to get into that in just a minute. First, though, former first son, Hunter Biden, is on the run again. Mr. Biden has reportedly moved out of the United States just a year, of course, after he moved out of the White House from living with Daddy. Hunter's attorney, Barry Coburn, disclosed that his client's current living situation in an April 6 court filing tied to a civil lawsuit over unpaid legal fees. He said, Mr. Biden lives abroad. He cannot pay his current lawyers. Now, it remains unclear whether Hunter Biden has truly relocated. This could just be another attempt at him evading responsibility for his actions. However, he did indicate late last year, Hunter Biden did, that he had been visiting Cape Town in South Africa, where his wife, Melissa Cohen Biden, is from originally. Biden said during an interview on the Wide Awake podcast, when all the political and personal stuff came to an end in the last 6 months, I had always promised that we would spend some time over here. We're trying to be between Cape Town and the States, go back and forth. He said, I've fallen madly in love with Cape Town. You guys do not know how good you have it here. It's the most beautiful city in the world. Well, of course he's going to spend more time out of the country if it will help him avoid paying his legal fees, paying his debts. Once again, Hunter Biden is not taking responsibility for his actions. And Daddy can't come bail him out again. The recent filing was submitted in a Washington, D.C. civil court by Winston & Strawn LLP, which is suing Biden for unpaid legal fees tied to its prior representation of him in a felony gun trial in Delaware and a tax crimes prosecution in California. As you know, his daddy, former President Joe Biden, pardoned him on all federal charges before leaving office in 2025. Wow. But that's typical Hunter Biden, isn't it? No surprise there. I'm just glad he doesn't owe me any money. Because if Hunter Biden owes you money, you're never going to see it. He is a crook, and he's going to do everything he can to keep from taking responsibility for his actions, just like he has for years and years, and his dad has enabled him to do so. All right, this South Carolina story that is making national headlines. We mentioned it briefly over the past few days. An illegal immigrant, allegedly so intoxicated that he could not stand, is accused of driving off of a road, killing 2 children riding their bikes on a sidewalk. This according to Spartanburg County officials. Ari Antonel Perez was denied bond this week on 2 counts of felony DUI resulting in death. He also faces charges of driving without a license and open container. He's currently being held at the Spartanburg County Detention Facility. Now, when this first was reported, my first thought was, here we go. This guy is an illegal alien, has no driver's license, and he's just killed 2 kids. This is the prime example of who President Donald Trump is trying to get out of our country. But initially, we didn't know his status. We didn't know if he was illegal or not. And by the way, the mainstream media didn't want to report on that immediately, even though they knew the answer to it. Now, the story is the crash happened around 12:20 Sunday afternoon over on Asheville Highway in Spartanburg. According to the South Carolina Highway Patrol, Mr. Perez was driving a 2016 Honda Accord eastbound when the vehicle veered off the road, struck these two boys who were riding their bicycles on the sidewalk. They weren't in the street. They were riding their bicycles on what they thought was a safe sidewalk with their family with them, walking along with them. The victims were identified as 12-year-old Darian James Robbins and 9-year-old Mikael Lee Smith, both of Spartanburg. Both boys died of their injuries later. Now, details from Monday's bond hearing that was first reported here in the upstate by WYFF News 4 described the emotional testimony and the defendant's condition at the scene. Darian's mother, Megan, said she was walking behind the children when the car veered toward them. This poor woman said, "I watched him almost hit me, and then I ran to my son while he bled to death." It's heartbreaking. Family members pleaded with the judge to keep Perez behind bars. One of Darian's brothers said, "Now I have to bury my own brother on his own birthday." I mean, it can't get any worse than this. And this guy should have never been in our country. But yet the Democrats, these are the very people that the Democrats are defending, that the Democrats think should be allowed to stay here. A prosecutor said that Mr. Perez showed clear signs of intoxication, including slurred speech, bloodshot eyes, and a strong odor of alcohol, and was unable to complete a field sobriety test or hold himself upright. Wow. Authorities say the vehicle left the roadway at a high rate of speed before striking these young, innocent children. Another passenger was inside of the car, according to reports. That passenger fled the scene. And I'm not sure if he's been located yet. Probably illegal as well. Spartanburg County Sheriff's Office confirmed that Perez is in the United States illegally. A judge also noted in court that an immigration detainer has been placed on him. The case is, as you can imagine, sparked outrage online in the community, many questioning the circumstances of the crash and calling for accountability. And again, this is the poster child of what Donald Trump is trying to do in our country. This guy should not have been here. Now he has taken two innocent lives. He has changed this family's life forever. Senator Tim Scott, in a statement, said, "Our hearts are heavy as we lift up the families of the two young boys whose lives were tragically taken. We're praying for God's comfort to surround them and for justice to be swiftly and fully served." The senator added that the tragedy reflects broader concerns over border security, saying, quote, "This devastating loss is not an isolated tragedy. It is the direct result of Joe Biden's open border policies, and innocent Americans are paying the price." And he's right. Senator Lindsey Graham's office also weighed in. Senator Graham said, "My heart breaks for the two young victims of this horrific crime and their families. This is yet another tragic example of the disastrous immigration policies of the last administration. President Trump is trying to clean up this mess, and I intend to keep working with him to do just that." Other members of Congress, Representative Nancy Mace, called the crash preventable, saying the boys were riding bikes on a sidewalk doing what children do when a drunk illegal immigrant killed them both. She's right as well. May said, referring to Darian's mother, she had to watch it happen. She ran to her son while he bled to death. No mother should ever have to see this. When are the Democrats going to wake up and admit that we just cannot continue to allow these things to happen? Family and friends said that Darian, who was just days away from his 13th birthday, brought joy to all those around him. There's a GoFundMe page set up for him. Family members are urging others to think twice before drinking and driving. Family members said, if you decide to drink, stay at home. It is not a driving activity. It's not fun. It's not cool. Mr. Perez is scheduled to appear in court again on June 18th. The investigation is ongoing. Wow. Wow. I just feel for that young family. Let's get caught up on a few text messages. Albert says, I read that Democrat Representative Bonnie Coleman called for President Trump to be eliminated. Why hasn't she been arrested for death threats against him? Look, Albert, the Democrats say these things and they get away with it time and time again. So don't be surprised. Texter, as a follower of Christ who has voted for Trump the past 3 times, I think we all understand how much of a provocateur President Trump is. However, it made me cringe seeing the president post a picture like this, especially since he talked about God saving him after his assassination attempts. It did not sit well with me. The texter is referencing, I asked you guys the other day, your thoughts on the meme that was posted and eventually taken down from Truth Social that appeared to show the president in a Christ-like figure, healing someone. Faye says, Joey, I believe MTG and her buddies are having a midlife crisis. Anyone who disregards the Bible about Israel is something other than a Christian. If she thinks for 1 minute I would follow her advice, then she is totally insane. She is a chameleon, and actually, I would prefer the lizard. And the dim running for governor in California looks like AI printed his face. Scary world, Joey. Yes, it is. It is scary indeed. Appreciate your text. You can always text me, email me, joe@joeyhudson.com. A step toward making South Carolina's 6-week abortion ban more restrictive was described as a bargaining chip by one state lawmaker this week, saying that it was an exchange for support for a hemp regulation that passed in the Senate last month. And this all started with State Senator Margie Bright Matthews. She told reporters on Tuesday, I'm not going to do these deals, but I know that they're happening. It's my belief that they're happening. It's obvious. You have to be Stevie Wonder to not see it. Republican senators, though, who were involved in hemp debates, and you may recall, we talked about this. There was a day-long discussion about whether to ban these hemp-related products. These are things that like drinks and gummies and things that have a high level of THC, and you can buy them in a convenience store. The Senate was wrestling with, do we just ban them totally, or do we regulate them? Do we make sure that they are not available to kids in a convenience store? Maybe they have to be sold in a liquor store. Maybe they have to be behind a counter, and you have to show ID to purchase them. So that's sort of the discussion here. Now, Republican senators who were involved in those debates and the abortion ban are denying knowledge of this so-called bargaining chip. Senate Majority Leader Shane Massey was quoted as saying, there's been no discussion to bring up an abortion bill at all. There was no deal made on hemp about abortion or anything else. There were no deals made. It wasn't even a conversation, he said. Now, during a hearing for a near total abortion ban that took place this week, Ms. Matthews claimed the abortion bill was a bargaining chip for support for another bill. Afterwards, she told reporters she believes support for the THC bill was exchanged for progress on the abortion bill. Here's part of the exchange.
You realize that we just got notice, us as senators just got notice of this bill last week ourselves. And we ourselves didn't have a lot of time to necessarily prepare and get done. And do you realize that really this is just a pomp and circumstance performance that you should not take serious? Because it is my suspicions as me, the senator from Colleton, that on the backs of women and children who need to be protected, this is just a bill that was brought forward as a bargaining chip for another bill.
That's what I've heard, Senator, but I
so don't take anything personal.
Thank you.
Now, this was a conversation at a hearing, and this Democrat senator was talking with a representative of Planned Parenthood. Evidently, there'd been some testy debate there. The Planned Parenthood rep was being questioned, and this senator was trying to console her, I guess. I don't know. But as a result of that, State Senator Richard Cash immediately responded to Ms. Matthews' suggestion, denying any deal was made to pass a hemp-derived THC regulation in the Senate.
Mr. Chairman, in reference to what the senator from Colleton just said, that's a complete falsehood. There was no bargaining chip. There was no deal involving the THC bill that's been reported by a certain news organization. That's a complete falsehood. There was no deal. There was never even such a discussion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Now, some of this was started by Fitz News, who posted about the alleged bargain involving the hemp bill in March. The proposed abortion ban passed out of an initial panel of senators yesterday morning. Senator Cash has long pushed for a near total abortion ban. Early in April, he filed a bill to ban all abortions except for when the life of the pregnant woman was at risk. The proposal also strips exemptions from current law, like allowing abortions in cases of rape, incest, or fatal fetal anomalies. It had an initial hearing this week. Senator Cash held hearings on another near-total abortion ban last fall. It failed after a vote of 3-2 when several Republican lawmakers did not vote. Several senators said criminalizing the woman who receives an abortion and removing exemptions went too far and was out of step with their constituents. Now, in all honesty, you got to figure that this is probably a conversation that is not necessarily comfortable for some Republicans in the state Senate, and especially this late in the session. Even though the bill passed a small panel of lawmakers yesterday, we're told it's unlikely the bill would receive a vote on the Senate floor this year. Probably not going to make it. Again, we're in our final, let's see, next week will be the final week. I mean, this session is almost over. Any contested Senate bill should be on the floor this week, according to Majority Leader Massey. Plus, the abortion bills hasn't been talked about as a priority for the caucus, he said. Again, it's an uncomfortable conversation. Senator Massey said there's been no conversation, zero conversation about bringing the bill up on the floor. Now, Senator Cash said yesterday, bringing abortion bans to the floor are always a fight, but it is a possibility his bill receives a vote this year. The bill makes the woman who receives an abortion guilty of a misdemeanor rather than a felony. Several anti-abortion advocates said the proposal was too soft on people who had abortions during the hearing Tuesday. South Carolina Senator Danny Verdon scheduled the Tuesday hearing April the 10th, according to the public meeting notice. Mr. Verdon, who chairs the Medical Affairs Committee, said the meeting was scheduled after committee members expressed interest in hearing the bill. So he scheduled it. Mr. Verdon told reporters of the alleged bargain, "I only heard of it peripherally. I didn't even read the accounts where it was generated." Now, last month, again, Republican Senate leaders struggled to pass this legislation on hemp-derived THC products after Democrat lawmakers described the bill as too restrictive, and conservative senators were reluctant to legalize the high-inducing drinks and gummies. They spent a whole day on this. An initial compromise on hemp products fell just after midnight in the Senate when this was being considered. The next day, after hours of closed-doors negotiation, the Senate passed a new proposal, 35-4. The 4 no votes were Senators Lee Bright, Billy Garrett, Senators Matthew and Ed Sutton. They voted against it. State Senator Michael Johnson from York steered the regulation through the Senate and said negotiations required family conversations in his caucus last month. But concerns around not doing anything to regulate high-inducing THC products, which can be sold to children under current state law, pushed a lot of the Republicans to change their vote, Mr. Johnson told reporters after the hemp vote on March the 19th. Something has to be done with these hemp products. Now, some people would just say, well, they're harmless. I get that. But this whole thing, you say, well, what does abortion have to do with hemp? It doesn't, obviously, nothing. But this is how things happen late in the session. You need a vote here, you need a vote there. One senator over here might support this if you'll support that. That's how it works. It's always worked. It's always going to be like that. That's politics. Today, it's just we can see this because, all the hearings are streamed, so you can watch it yourself. There's a lot more public record. You can't get by with some of the smoke-filled backroom deals that once took place. going to be interesting to watch in this final week of the session. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined our mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Just click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, find me on YouTube. Be sure and like, subscribe, follow me on my YouTube channel. Just search for Joey Hudson. Appreciate you spending a few minutes of your day with me. Be sure and forward this edition of Just the Truth to some friends. Just click on the share button. Send it to a few of your contacts, because if we're going to build our community and if we're going to win in November, we got to build an army of conservatives. The way we beat Joe Biden is through educating people, and no better way than encouraging them to listen to Just the Truth. Hey, keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Your emails always welcome as well. Joey@joeyhudson.com. Don't forget to take advantage of the MyPillow special, $25 for the My Towels 6-piece towel set when you use promo code Joey. Just go to mypillow.com.